Joe from Effed Up World. Good to see you.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. I don't have very good internet here. But there is a button on my page that says stream this to your audience. I was thinking about clicking it, but maybe I'll do that another time.
Well, that's up to you. Yeah, so I have it enabled where if you click it, I don't know if it automatically makes you go live or if you would have had to set up the live. I'm not sure because I've never done it on that end.
Because I have a StreamYard set up already or whatever. So I bet you I would just have to sign in and then it would probably just start.
If you want to do it, that's up to you, man, because we can really go into it. We can add to my continuing series that I'm compiling on you, the Joe Effed Up World series. I already have a number. Well, I guess it depends on who you ask, Joe, right? But
yeah,
I already have a number of your appearances compiled, so I'm just going to add to it. The only problem is you were an early contributor to my show, so your first appearances go back to like over a year ago, dude. So
seems like even longer.
It's my first broadcast was July 1st of 2023, so it's been a little more than a year. It's been a year and 2 months, and so
it's been a long year.
Yeah, dude. So I'm trying to go back in time and like compile all that stuff, but I'm going back chronologically. So to get to your first appearances, it's I'm wading through all the fucking bullshit.
Hey man, we've had some conversations I think that are like, to me, it seems to be like vital, important things for people to think about. I mean, it has been for me when I think about some of these things that you and I have talked about. It changes my outlook on life. Some of these truths or whatever you want to call it. We've been lied to big time, man. And actually, we maybe even not lied to, but we believed lies.
Well, I think you nailed it, man. Like, you and I seem to understand the importance with this information and what we're doing here. And to me, at least, I don't really, at this point, I'm not interested what other people think about my thoughts, the things that I accept with my reality. I'm past that now because I think any form of truth in this world of deceptions, this world of deceit and lies is going to be suppressed, minimized, minimalized, made fun of, rejected. I'm okay with that, man. So if I were to let those things stop me and influence me, I would have stopped doing this a long time ago. It's definitely an uphill road. And I think you and I share a passion for this. I could tell by, your content. I know you put effort into your content. I know you put thought into your content. And like me, I know you think it's valuable. And like you said, of vital importance. So there's nothing else for us to do except just keep doing what we're doing. Go ahead.
Agree. What I wanted to point out is it's not us. The first time I thought about the earth being flat, that wasn't from coming up from up here. That was from a show I was listening to on YouTube, or that my dad was listening to on YouTube. And as my dad sat there and laughed and made fun of what the guy was saying, I was like, whoa, but this he's not wrong. The things he's saying are true. Hey, buddy. Got my cat here. This is Dusty.
Dusty's a big old kitty. Nice.
Yeah, he's a big cat.
Yeah.
Big boy. But so when I say it's vital information or something like that, it's not my information. Just the concept of what we're talking about, the thoughts that a person can have about it. That's the vital information, I think. Not
right. That you or I have something special to add. But exactly. Joe, I'm going to disagree with you. I think you do have something special to add. You don't have to think that about yourself, and I know you're humble. I'm going to disagree with you politely. I think you do have something special to add. Your thoughts on this realm are rather unique to me, or at least you present them in a unique way. The way you tie in biblical scripture with this idea, this concept of this cosmology, and even more so
Yes.
about the current technology that we see with space travel, the space presentation,
Hmm.
Elon Musk, all these things. You have a very unique way that you tie this understanding in with scriptures that I enjoy so much. So I do think you bring something unique, but I want to get to that, but I want to back up a little bit to your, because I've never heard this story from you about how you were introduced to this topic. So you said your dad was watching something and somebody blurted out
Yeah.
flat earth. What was the circumstance?
Um, have you heard of, I think his name, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but a guy on YouTube from a long time ago named Stefan Molyneux or something. I don't know.
I remember him. I remember Stefan Molyneux. He
He
used to
had,
do he used to do these like presentations on like logic and reason, and he would talk
yes,
about Aristotle or Ayn Rand, and he was kind of
yes,
hoity-toity. He was
a
kind of
different fella.
uppity. Right. And he kind of got swept off and got deplatformed with the whole after Trump, when they did the big deplatforming thing, when Owen Benjamin got basically 86th off of YouTube.
Hmm.
Stefan Molyneux he got caught up in that like alt-right thing.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
and
So
kind of
wow,
just
you're watching
disappeared.
Stefan Molyneux. Interesting.
So I was just working in the shop, and my dad was listening to this Stefan Molyneux on the radio or whatever, and he had a flat earther, uh, and they were talking about water. They were talking about space, and like very basic. I don't even actually remember exactly what the conversation was. I just remember my adverse reaction to what my dad was uh, experiencing. Like he was like, this guy is stupid, and he's kind of laughing at him. And I can understand why a person thinks that way. But in my heart, deep, I was saying, this is not, this is not things that are crazy. This is things that actually are true. So,
Wow. So you resonated with it right away. What was it? Was it just
yeah,
simply logical to you? Did you just, because the same thing happened to me
water.
when I came across this information? I said, okay, it's not like it registered right away. It's not like I
No.
accepted it immediately, but I went, this is logical. This doesn't sound cuckoo to me. Let me investigate this. This is sound, which is
Yes.
interesting. And now the most sound, logically, intellectually, and spiritual people I find are flat earthers, dude.
I think that God is showing us something that's been hidden, at least from us, something that's been hidden throughout. I don't know. We don't know how long, but I know that my grandparents and their grandparents probably had this solar system belief. And for that to be true, the Earth has to be rotating. And I that's what really got me. Z is um I can remember these. You remember where you were when the Twin Towers fell, right? It like
Yep.
that. I have these memories of where I was and the conversation I was having, and this one happened to be at my house. Uh, this was like quite a bit later after I had but I'm still like learning about it. I'm not going out and saying, yeah, this is the truth. I'm just saying, okay, it was so intimidating to me that something like this could be actually real, like that a deception that large could. It kind of showed me a possibility of what the Bible talks about in Revelation, where Satan deceived the whole world. I'm like, how could he deceive the whole? Well, this is one way he could have done it. It's like through generations of however. But I just I was in my kitchen or my dining room, and it's wood floor, and I was with my brother and dad, and we got on the conversation of Earth rotation, and I was like, I got off of my chair during this conversation, and I touched the floor, and I said, this floor that we walk on, we're eating on it, we live here, this is not moving, this is not rotating. If you went outside and pretended you lived in the stars and looked back, maybe it would look like it's rotating because the stars are rotating. And that was one conversation, and they're just like, that's so stupid. And I'm like, how can that be stupid when you're sitting in a chair not moving? It's so contradictory to me. This is the way I see it, but some people see me to be that way, I guess. But some of these things, they don't come from us. These truths that have not come from me and you, Z, or Jeranism, or Mark Sargent, or anyone. These came from God. And I think that there's so many different ways that people look at God. Run Boston Bear, that I see is here, is awesome. And I was listening to him, I don't remember where, but he was making it was on Melodome. He was making a comment about something that FMX said about God. He's saying, I tried to look at all the Christianity and like all the different ways that people think of God. And he said, I gave up. He said, I just said to, I don't know his exact words, but he called out to God. Like, I don't know what your name is. I don't know if the Bible is right, or if Hinduism or the Quran. I don't know that, but I want to know about you. And I think that no matter how you're looking at God, that to me is a realization that if someone could say that they accomplished what they wanted to in their life, that would be that accomplishment, is to actually call out to God and be like, become in your mind subject to him, however you see him. I'm sure the people in other, cultures and things, they look at it a different way, and they might think the Bible is not, I don't know. I don't know everything, but I just know that the one that made all this is showing us it, just in these recent years. He's showing us that he made it. He's showing us that he did all of this. And I think that, to me, that's awesome.
Right. And that's the powerful part about this. Interesting what you said about the movement, because that's what got me. That's what tipped the scales in my mind, was the movement thing. Somebody basically said, look, they say that our orbit around the sun is an ellipse. It's elliptical. I said, oh,
You should be
okay.
speeding up and slowing down. And
Right. So I said that, of course. I said, yeah, that implies acceleration and deceleration. Of course it does. Of course it does. I
you
said,
wouldn't
no,
feel
that's
that.
crazy. That's
You
crazy.
wouldn't
Right. So if the Earth is slowing down, you would feel it. That's cuckoo. There's nothing you can tell me to convince me that the oceans wouldn't tip, the glass of water in my hand wouldn't tip, that I wouldn't get thrown over, and that everybody would die. Right. I said, we're not moving. Oh my God. There's no way we're not. And that was the
That was a
inversion.
big one.
Well, because I discussed this earlier, is that what it appears to me is that we're all discovering now as a flat earth community is that they hijacked perception, the way we see things in
Yes.
perception, because perception's not reality. Reality is planar math. It's Euclidean. It's level, plumb, and
Yep.
square.
And
That's reality.
how do we go to the ocean and stand there and look at that perfectly straight line of the
Right.
horizon? How do we do that and somehow in our minds picture that it's going like this, but
Right.
it's not? That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
I
And
just
that's what it is. So it's like, okay, they hijacked our perspective, and based off that, they came up with the math for the radius and the diameter and thus the circumference of the globe. They just inverted everything. And people say, well, Z, the math works. And they can predict eclipses. And no, the math works because it's the same math. They just flipped it over. So instead of us being on a plane with basically a perspective of a globe above us, whatever the sky may be, they inverted it. They said, no.
Mhm.
We're on the globe. We're on the curved convexing object. And it's the sky that's relatively flat because you're looking out into the vast distance of space. They just inverted it, man. And to
It's crazy.
invert it, they had to do exactly what you said. By inverting it, they had to say that we're moving, not the sky. And that to me is such a crazy assertion that we're actually moving. The level of indoctrination that they had to basically perpetrate to get us to believe that we are moving and the sky is relatively still, that's the amazing part. And that's why I love your interest in the Bible, because only a spiritual deception could accomplish
And
such a delusion on mankind to get us to think the complete opposite of reality. And what did Satan do? Satan usurped reality and inverted it. Go ahead,
dude,
man.
it's like you're quoting Enoch right now. You're like saying what I have this page open in Enoch talking about the 7 stars that when it came. Now, this is interesting too. People think that this is a 500-year-old conspiracy or whatever, a deception. I personally think on the 4th day of creation that this deception started, this globe, this solar system deception. And the reason why I think that is because those 7 stars, Enoch saw them. It was a waste and horrible place. I saw their 7 stars. So they're stars like great burning mountains. And to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, this place is the end of heaven and earth. That'd be like the firmament, right? The end of heaven and earth. The end of earth, the beginning of heaven, that would be in the sky to me. But it says, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire, doesn't that sound like a solar system? These are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times, and he was wroth with them and bound them, imprisoned them till the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years. To me, that the planets are stars that God imprisoned in an orbit around the sun. So when they talk about low Earth orbit, that's not a good thing. It's a prison. Any kind of orbit is a prison. It's a spiritual prison. And if you think about it, what is an orbit? It's because like, why are the astronauts floating? Why are anything that's in space is in a state of like 0G or whatever? Why? Because everything in space is falling around something else. Whether you believe that this is real or not, I'm just saying the concept that NASA believes, they're falling around the globe at 17,000 miles an hour. The ISS started falling in 1998, and it has not reached the bottom, and it never will. You get what I'm saying? Because
Like an abyss.
it's a perpetual thing, and
Yeah.
it's a dark abyss, the blackness of darkness. That's what the book of Jude said. These wandering stars foaming out their own shame. Wandering stars.
For whom it is reserved, the blackness,
Yes,
the darkness
the blackness
forever.
of darkness forever. That is okay. And then if we go to Genesis, creation, God's very clear about darkness. People think that there's a dark abyss in the earth or something. I believe the hell used to be in the heart of the earth. But I believe when Jesus was crucified, if you read Matthew 27, or there's other books too, the book of Adam and Eve, there's a prophecy in there that the word of God made to Adam about when he would shed his blood at Golgotha and descend down into hell and break the bars of iron. And I can't remember exactly what it said, but in Enoch, there's a prophecy about Jesus in chapter 10 of Enoch. I just think this is interesting stuff. A lot of people haven't really thought about this, but
So let me ask you, Enoch has a lot of really good information. Even in
yes.
the later chapters, it
Mhm.
talks about the basically the sun and the moon and the different chambers that it goes into.
Yeah,
And
fully
it
detailed that I don't even grasp. Like I can't even
right.
grasp it. It's so complicated.
There's a lot. So somebody basically explained it recently. I actually almost played the clip today. Maybe I'll play it tomorrow. Where it's basically if you picture the 6 chambers that he talks about, it's like 6 concentric circles extending out from the North Pole.
Mhm.
And he's basically describing how the sun moves over the year, pretty
Yes.
much,
Yeah,
in
and
and
it
out
it
of the
comes in
tropic.
this
Yeah,
one and out of this one into the next one for 7 days, or I don't remember, 30
right.
days or something, and then it
And
moves
the
to the next.
moon, exactly. Yep. And how the moon
And
moves through these portals, basically. He
yeah.
conjectured them as portals, which to
Yeah, I
me
think
makes
they're called portals,
sense.
and, there was
Yeah.
another word that was used for them too, wasn't it? I
It's like
can't remember.
chamber and portal and stuff like that, man.
Something like that, yeah.
So
Um,
let me ask you, since we're referencing Enoch,
yeah.
the book of Enoch, interestingly enough, was left out of the 66 canonical books of the Bible, but it's mentioned multiple times in multiple books of the Bible. Enoch is referenced in the Bible, but yet the book of Enoch was excluded from the Bible. Do you think this was on purpose by the church?
I'll tell you why I think it was, because I think it was meant to be, not, I mean, not that it wasn't meant to be available or something, but it wasn't, the significance of it was for a specific generation. And it says that right at the beginning, the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when
Mm.
all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me. And from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw. But not for this generation, but for a remote one, for which is to come. Concerning
Interesting.
the elect, I said, and took up my parable concerning them. So this is for the last generation. So if we find significance in this book, maybe we're the last generation. I don't know. That's just for people to ponder on their own. But
And just
there's,
for reference, Enoch would be Noah's great grandfather. Is that correct? I think Enoch was Methuselah's father, and Methuselah was Noah's grandpop. But I might be wrong on that one. Did Joe freeze? Joe, did you freeze? Yeah, I think we lost Joe. Let me check if I'm still alive. Joe, if you're trying to talk, you're frozen, homie. Let me put Joe in the back. Maybe he can straighten that out. I'll drop the link again in case he wants to come up. I love where he was. Oh, here he is.
my computer just died, so I went on my phone. Hopefully it works.
Right on.
Um, there's prophecies in Enoch that of Jesus, and my understanding is that when Jesus was crucified and said he went, when he gave up the ghost, all these physical things happened in the earth. There was an earthquake, and the rocks were rent, and the veil of the temple was torn. And then it says, and many bodies of the saints came up out of their graves. It's like came out of the ground and went up to the holy city, or went into the holy city, and appeared to many. So the people that were there saw this happening. And even the centurion was like, that was when, after he saw those things happen, like he knew, he said, surely this was the Son of God that they had just crucified. And it says that he went down into the heart of the earth, and he was there for 3 days. And I believe, and it's not a popular belief, but um, uh, in Matthew 27, it basically, it gives me the idea that Jesus resurrected, like from Adam up until the time of Jesus. Jesus took them to heaven, or up to New Jerusalem. And I know that's not a very popular idea, I guess, but to me, it just says it right there. Many bodies of the saints came up out of their graves. They were resurrected. And wasn't Jesus the first resurrected from the dead? And
Right. So if
I
he's the first, you're saying there. What are your thoughts that some people try to explain to me that the Christ is also represented as the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament?
I think that's a possibility. Like that, I think maybe some of the prophets that saw him didn't know that it was the Son of God. Like Enoch had to ask. He said, "Who is that? That appear, like who is that Son of Man that's with the Lord of Spirits?" And he was told that that's the elect one that will. I can't remember exactly what it says, but he will save the people in the world on his own, and uh, over all the things created. And I believe he actually created them with his words. But yeah. Oh, that was another thing. The Book of Enoch also talks about a time when there'd be a new heaven and I mean a new earth, and he would bring people to this new earth that were righteous, but the sinners couldn't set foot there. And then he says, I would also transform the heaven and make it a blessing. I got to read that. I got to find it. To me, I'm like, flat earth, guys. He is showing us in the Bible. It says, how many times does it say, I will take you or from among the heathen and place you in your own land? And I think that's talking about the promised land, which that's why I think that this whole flat earth or just the lies being exposed, to me, that is probably, I mean, I believe that it's the gospel of the kingdom of God, that
So
Jesus preached that when he was here.
so much like me, Joe, you see this whole understanding as very consequential.
Yes.
And a lot of people who are not of this understanding, they have a difficult time wrapping their head around it because they'll say to me, "Oh, you're hung up on this flat Earth thing, Z," or they'll accuse me of like shilling flat Earth for like viewers or something, as if flat Earth gets promoted, which it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's actually shadow banned and censored to the
and
bejesus. It's
and
crazy
you're
to even
like
think that.
ridiculed. You're like ridiculed for anything that you
Right,
say.
exactly. Because once you're a flat earther, you're a flat earther, man. Because it's like we're placed in this bin and then we almost can't escape it. So it's like, okay, I'll embrace it because I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend it's not consequential to me. It is very much so. I don't, to me, when people say, what does it matter? Or they'll say, oh, okay, so what? I still have to go to work. Or what's the big deal? How does that change my life? Joe, that blows me away. I'm
What if
like,
the devil was deceiving you, and you're going to end up uh, instead of living with what we would call good and true, you're going to die with the false and darkness.
right. Because isn't it the truth that sets one free?
It is.
Really. If anything will release us from bondage, it's the
Yes.
truth.
Yes.
Because the
You know
only
what
real
that?
bondage is a mental bondage, it's a spiritual bondage. That's the one you need to be worried about. You don't need to be worried about thrown into a jail. You don't have to be worried about dying or starving to death. It's your spirit that you need to be worried about. It's the kingdom. Your treasure should be built in the kingdom. Whatever that is, some people don't like the Christian thing, but it's a mental thing. It just means your energy, your consciousness. It
And I
means
think
more than this life. Go ahead.
what you were saying about um, if some people don't like the Bible thing, they don't trust the Bible, and I don't blame them. Like, look at our history; it's really weird. But um, what I was kind of saying, kind of repeating a little bit what Run Boston Bear was saying. I don't think we have to define every single little part about what we consider God to be, as long as we're seeking Him and trying to know Him. I don't like I say Him because that's just to me, that is just what the Bible says. God is a father. But I do think that um well, it all comes down to truth, Z. Jesus said something when he was right before he was crucified, and I say this all the time, but because it like jabbed me in my heart to made me understand something. Um, he said, Pilate was asking him, "So are you a king?" And Jesus was like, "You say I'm a king." And then he said, and I always screw it up if I don't read it, but basically he said, "The reason why I came into this world was to bear witness to the truth." And then he said, "Everyone that is of the truth hears my voice." So I think just that concept is important. Some people say, "Oh, Jesus, that he's made up," or his name wasn't Jesus, or all the different these different like human arguments. I try to like look past that if I can. I mean, some things catch you, and you're like you want to kind of debate them or whatever. But when it comes to knowing who God is, we have a book, the Bible. We have a lot of different books and a lot of different religious history or whatever. And I think that the most important thing is to seek the truth. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And he also said, if you uh, follow my words, or uh, if you stay with my words or whatever, um, you are my disciples. And he said, and you'll know the truth, and it will set you free. So truth to me is it's not that I can say Jesus Christ was born on this day and he died on this day, and I don't know all that history. No one can even know that. But I do believe that God created the world, and then I believe that ever since the time when those stars came out and didn't do what they were, it said at the beginning of their rising that they transgressed. So that would be the fourth day of, like, the evening of the fourth day of creation. And I think from that point on until Jesus came, it was misrepresented. People did not look at it as the truth, what he actually, the words he spoke. And then when Jesus came, what did he do? He went in the synagogues and he taught the gospel of the kingdom. He preached the gospel of the kingdom in their synagogues. They crucified him. And before they crucified him, he said, "Well, I just came here to see the truth." And
Let me
and
let me ask you this.
yeah,
It's interesting what you said about when the heavens were created on the fourth day, they transgressed at least these seven stars, these
just seven.
wandering
Yeah.
stars. These so-called planets, they're very unique, they're very special, and they could be so many things. Here's what they're not: dirty, rocky spheres out billions or hundreds of millions of miles away, or gas giants. That's what they're not.
No.
What they are is the interesting thing, and that could be so many things. Um, you referenced Enoch. Enoch talks about the falling ones, the
Yes.
fallen ones.
Yes.
They talked about how they gathered on Mount Hermon and made a pact.
Yes. A
They
con-
made they made a pact with each other to basically interact with humanity in a particular way. Now, there's a lot of ways we can look at that. They, in a way, brought humanity, according to Enoch, knowledge, technology, things like that. Even stuff like,
how to wear
teaching women.
makeup,
I was just going to say that, teaching women how to wear makeup,
how
or
to do abortions.
right, metallurgy, medicine in that way. Well, we're also told throughout history about the story of Prometheus in the Greek mythology, who brought fire from the gods. Fire could be analogous to technology, knowledge. Back to the Garden of Eden, we're talking about the fall of man, the tree of knowledge, the tree of good and evil. It seems as though there was a state of man that we can have a concept of, that at some point there was a forbidden interaction with these angelic beings that led to a fallen state. And I always look at it like this: this technology that we have, the technology that enables you and I to talk right now and all these people to listen to us and brings us all these wonders of the technological age. The question for me is, on the balance, are the benefits greater than the detriments of technology? I would say not. I would say, on the whole, this technology is bringing us nothing that we actually need and is actually leading us down a path towards destruction and
Yep.
depravity and abomination. So, what did these
Sorcery
angels
and all
really
stuff.
bring us, and was it for our benefit? Go ahead.
You make a good point when you say no. It probably the benefit doesn't outweigh the destruction or whatever, because the way I understand it, and now this is a weird thing too. People are like, okay, there's a dragon in the end of the Bible in Revelation. Satan himself is John sees him as a dragon. And this dragon is flying in the firmament where the stars are. And it John called it a great wonder and in heaven. So Satan's flying around in heaven apparently at the end of the world. And to me, it's people think it's crazy. Some people do, but if you just read the story in Revelation, Satan, there's a story there, and this dragon ends up going up and down from heaven, and he's cast out into the earth. And there's no more place for him up there. Um, right now, there is a space station. Whatever you believe it is or isn't, might not even be important. Um, I would say that there's a dragon that's bringing people up and down. I use that word loosely, but astronauts, I'll say, are going up and down on a dragon up to this throne that's up there. And this throne, they call it an orbiting laboratory, and it's a 0G environment. It's literally falling as if it is in a bottomless pit. Like even the astronauts quote, you can quote the astronauts saying that it's a bottomless pit. I have videos on my channel. It's the deepest black. It's almost like it has a texture to it. Like they really describe this abyss. They say the Earth looks like a small island in a dark abyss. There's all sorts of descriptions that the astronauts make that are verbatim almost from the Bible. Well, this beast in Revelation, he comes up out of the bottomless pit and he goes into perdition. To me, I think that's what the space station is doing. And whether people think it's a good thing and it's good for human health, they do a lot of experiments like skin cell, whatever, all their stuff they do. They make a lot of technology for certain prescription drugs up there that they couldn't discover unless they were in like a 0G environment. A lot of things that they're doing up there. And it's interesting because I think that's even written in Enoch also, that they would be going, the angels would be ascending and descending in these waters, and it would be for the health of mankind that they would be doing this for health, for people's health. And but it was actually bringing their destruction. It was actually, they were actually going. It says the place where they're going, that they didn't know and didn't believe that it would become, because it was a lake, like it was waters, and that those waters would become a fire that burns forever. So that this is why when you say you embrace the flat Earth thing, I embrace it because it literally frees captives from that prison, from believing that prison is somehow their future. There's a lot of people in this world right now that think that Mars is a destination for a civilization, and they really believe this, even though it's all just an idea. That's very scary to me. So I embrace what can free a person from that uh, deadly type of mindset.
Yeah, I hear that 100%, dude. And your thoughts give a new idea about what could be going on up there, and it's this isn't even a new story, man. We could look at the story about the Tower
Yeah,
of Babel.
same thing.
What the Tower of Babel may be with Nimrod, and at the point where humanity was at a point where there was a common language, there was probably a common understanding, and this idea of man trying to reach the heavens and ascend to the throne of God.
And to
We're
smite him and to kill him. That was their in their hearts. That's what they wanted. That's
so
weird.
to me, that's an interesting thing to me. It's like, what is it? This compulsion that man has to reach the heavens and become like God, the gods. Could this be the influence that the fallen ones had on us?
One
Are
specific.
we in some way genetically mingled with the fallen ones where we have this rebellious nature inside of us? Is this the true fall of man where we want to be as gods, the tree of good and knowledge, the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge? Is this just in us genetically to rebel? Because what I see, Joe, is a wonderful, beautiful earth that has everything we need. It's just right there, dude. The food's there, the shelter's there, the medicine's there. We have communities and we have families, and we learn how to manage this earth. And but we're presented with this delusion, this deception that we need these things of so-called science to advance humanity. What advancement? Look around, everybody. Do we look like we're advancing in any way? I lived on
Illusion.
this, I lived on this earth for 45 years. I don't see an advancement in humanity. The people from the 80s and the 90s were different because that's the time I knew. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. It was my childhood. People have devolved, they've regressed. And the same people, Joe, it's like the people I knew in the 90s and I see them now, they're completely different, man. The spark is gone. The humanity is gone. What is this technology bringing us? As this technology advances at an exponential rate, we seem to be falling at the same rate. It seems to be associated with each other. And again, what is this inside of us? This rebelling against the creator and the creation. What is that to you, man? And I'm going to start bringing some other people up. So
Again,
I have a guest or two in the back. If you want to come up, I'm going to drop the link. We are in the open panel portion. Go ahead, Joe. My
that's an
apologies.
answer for you. A very specific answer for you. Why do humans want to go up to the sky? Well, it's because they follow Lucifer. Now I don't think they are trying to follow Lucifer, but that's what Lucifer had in his heart, has in his heart. It says this in Isaiah 14. He said, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars. Makes me think of the space station. I will, he said, I will set my congregation in the sides of the north. And I didn't understand that until I was reading, I think, Psalm 48, when it talks about the beautiful. It talks about the sides of the north being God's holy mountain. That's the sides of the north is God's holy mountain. So Satan says, I'm going to set my congregation on your mountain. And then he said, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So
Wow,
when
Joe,
people
this is wild stuff, man.
when
This is
people follow
wild, man.
him, they don't do it on purpose. When the construction workers were working for Nimrod, building that tower, and they're laboring every day, do you think those people knew in their hearts that they were warring against God? But that's how God saw it. God said it was a sin and a transgression that they were building that tower, and they were building against him. And it actually, in the book of Jasher, it actually says 3 different ways that they were were doing a transgression. The first was they wanted to ascend into heaven and smite God. The second was I don't remember if I'm getting the order right, but the second one, they wanted to ascend into heaven and kill God and take the heavens for their own. And the other interesting one to me was that they wanted to ascend into heaven and place their own gods there and serve them. And I'm like, satellites, space station. We built a taller tower, I guess, than Nimrod could do. You know, Elon Musk built a higher tower, whatever. It's the same thing.
Right, but it's the same mindset, the same motivation
To ascend into the
to
heavens.
usurp the creation for some reason.
Yep.
Interesting. Let's